Morning everyone, just pulled up and I think I'm the only one here. Got me snips, take my hood off, and today I'm going to be preparing and planting a patch of grassland into somewhere that's going to give us fruits, vegetables and leaves for this season, and more importantly for many, many seasons to come, with little to no input. So this is what it looks like now. So in this space we have two ways of growing food colliding. We've got Gardener's World, Monty Don, Alan Titchmarsh. We got the people, they grow stuff, they grow vegetables in rows. They stress about every weed, they love it. They're buying plant feed, they're doing all sorts. They're singing to their carrots. They know exactly the amount of broccolis they're gonna have. They might even weigh them after they finish growing them, just to show how much they've grown. And then you've got the other side, you've got forest gardeners, the permaculturists, who are going to plant a couple of trees. They don't even have to be fruit producing trees. They're going to let some weeds grow. They're going to eat a couple of dandelion leaves and say it's permaculture and it's fantastic, it's a food forest. I'm joking, of course, each to their own and good for you. But here I'm hoping those two ways of gardening, of growing food, come together, merge, make love on my plot and create an amazing amalgamation of traditional veg gardener, food forest grower, into the most amazing allotment ever. So what does that actually mean? Well, hopefully by the end of today, I'm going to have planted a multi-layer, formal-ish food forest. Somewhere I can wander over to at any time of the year and harvest a load of food from. Fruits, vegetables, leaves, without any real effort or maintenance after the planting and creation of it today. And I'm going to achieve that by planting a different and clever variety of perennial plants. So plants that only have to be planted once rather than being planted annually, so year on year, like traditional veg. So trees, shrubs, and some more unusual but fantastically brilliant perennial versions of more commonly grown veg. So that's the plan anyway. So to start with, this is where the traditional bit comes in. Fresh ground, no weeds, carbon and compost like our mate Charles. I won't make you watch that bit because there's a million different YouTube videos on it and I've even done one. So I won't exclude anything else from growing here other than the plants I choose. It's a fictional forest in my head and it's coming to life on my plot here. If you can't eat it, I don't want it. Time to get the compost on there. Right, so I've got this well-rotted sawdust on here. Now to add a bit of compost, a little bit of green to the brown to add the compost in there. I don't mind having to spread a bit of compost on it every year or so, but aside from that and a little bit of pruning of the trees, it's going to be basically zero maintenance. So laying down the cardboard and compost, a pretty well-established no-dig technique from turning a bit of grassland into a productive bed. This means we're going to smother everything that's grown underneath it so the grass can't really grow through it, and we're going to give the soil a good feed and add a load of organic matter as a bonus. So now all I need to do is populate this bare ground with the plants that I want to be growing here. So rather than plant a load of annuals now in a row, I'm going to grow a mix of different perennials that are going to be giving me food, leaves, fruits for the next 20 years or so. I've already planted the trees, as you can see in a previous video, and I'm not going to go into too much detail into every single plant. There will be more future videos on them individually if you're interested, but it's going to be hard not to say a little bit about each one of these wonders as we go along. Now I'm just going to clear around the base of the tree, just to make sure we're not rotting the stems. Caught a bit of cardboard there. Lovely. So lining the edge of my old greenhouse was a load of Jerusalem artichokes. Now I want to plant these around the edge of the forest garden so I get a nice screening all through the summer and they are delicious. So as you can see, I've not dug much of those out and there's a lot of them, and from my experience you do not need many of these, just one. It quickly turns into an absolute beast plant. Right, whenever I'm planting a landscape, I always like to put the big plants in, the structural plants in first. But with this, I want to put the plants around the edge that I know are going to go in there. So we've got the Jerusalem artichoke around the edge for a bit of screening, and then next, the ground cover around them, we're going to put in some strawberries that I've got left over for when I dug up the old strawberry patch the other day. Now they're looking a little bit sorry for themselves there, but they'll be fine, I'm sure. So I'm going to stick a load of those in all the way around the edge, just where the Jerusalem artichokes were, and I'm going to give them a little bit of a water as they go in because those puppies are dry. Now you can barely see these little things, but I'm hoping soon they'll spread their wings and they'll be all around the edge of the plot, a nice sea of green. I've got a few spare, so rather than just planting them just around the edge, I'm going to plant them so they come in a tiny bit and they cut the corner off. So you've got this kind of corner of green. Right, now time for the bigger, more structural plants. We've got a Thornless Blackberry, Loganberry, 2 gooseberry bushes, one lavender. It's had a bit of a beating if you can spot it. It's basically been planted on a path, so it's tiny and a bit mullered. And one rosemary. Now the idea of putting the lavender and the rosemary where they are is, I haven't put the paths in yet, but you'll see where they go in is classic design technique. So they go right past the path, so you might just brush past them as you go in. Like I said, this lavender is looking a little bit sorry for itself, but I'm pretty confident it's going to come back to life here. I'm going to give it a good hard prune because I can see the new growth coming from the base, and this old woody stuff I think is just getting in the way. So don't be alarmed that I scalp the thing. Now I've never grown Thornless Blackberries before, but they tick a few boxes for me. Firstly, it's going to help the artichokes, the Jerusalem artichokes, provide a screen at the back to block out my mate's IBC container in his allotment. They're going to provide soft fruit, which is fantastic because it's something different, as well as it being a really high value thing. I'm eating so many frozen ones at the moment, which is great, but how brilliant to be able to grow my own. And it's indestructible. This thing's been living in a pot for the last 2 years without any water or any care or attention. So if it can survive that throughout the whole summer, no water, it can survive anything. And again, it's perennial. So it's plant today and it's fruit this year and forever! The Loganberry here, again, it's with the screening, and I'm a big fan of these plants. I've got loads of them down there and they multiply like no one's business. Shallow little fella. So I dug it up and put it here. For some reason, the birds don't like Loganberries either around here. I don't know why it is, but they don't really seem to like them. So brilliant. They fruit on this year's cane. Fantastic. What's not to like? And this is going to provide again another screen for Dave's allotment and fruit for us this year and beyond. I've got to be honest, I've had these gooseberry bushes for a couple of years and I don't know, I feel like I'm a little bit young to like gooseberries. That's probably a bit rude, isn't it? But what I mean by that is I definitely didn't grow up eating them. I probably just haven't found the right way to eat them yet. These roots are so shallow I can actually just scrape away the sawdust and rotted grass clippings and just plant it right on top of the cardboard. So we'll see these roots in action going down through the cardboard. I'm not going to give these too hard a prune, so I did that a couple of years ago. I thinned them right out and they haven't exactly been thriving. They've been overshadowed by the big perennial kales I had in the other bed where they got them from. But I'm just going to remove the crossing wood or any damaged wood, although with these gooseberry bushes every bit of wood looks damaged, it all looks diseased and damaged, but that's just the old wrinkly spangly little bits of wood there. That's just the nature of the gooseberry bush. I'm just going to remove any damaged or crossing wood and then reduce it a tiny bit in size, but leave this puppy to do his thing. And I would have thought moving it this late in the year, would I get, because these fruit quite early, would I get some fruit? I wouldn't have thought so, but I'm looking at this now, I'm a little bit confident. I'm going to give it an extra splash of water and I'm going to cross my fingers and do a prayer every night till it fruits. And I'll go the same with the other one because again, doesn't need that much doing to it. Get it in there, get a little haircut and happy days. This is a lovely time up the allotment. It's the evening, there's nobody here. Peaceful, there's a slight breeze, the birds are really singing. It's about to start getting dark, not there yet, but you can hear the birds. Yeah, just wanted to stop and take it in and show you one of the beauties of being outside, and then you get back to growing your own food forest. So now we come to probably my favourite section of the planting. Actually, probably they're all my favourites, but this one's called Me Plants. And this is the penultimate layer before the ground cover. In here, I'm working with what I've got already here at the allotment. We've got Perennial Leeks, Walking Onion, Sea Beet, and Turkish Rocket, believe it or not. That's the one I have never grown before. Well, I planted it in my mum's garden probably about 2 years ago, so I'll be back in a week, and it's taken me about 2 years to get back there. So I haven't actually eaten these, although I did try them. The secret is I did try them in midsummer, and you can eat the leaves, but the main thing I want to harvest them for is their flowering stems. You kind of cook it like broccoli. But I did have the leaf in midsummer, which apparently is when it's worst, and it was pretty disgusting, to be honest. But I've got high hopes from here. I reckon it's her soil, or something like that. Anyway, so we've got those 4 plants, and I'm going to be placing them in. Before that, I'm just going to quickly whack down the path to show where the path's going to be, or should I forget the path altogether and just whack them in and see what happens? All right, I'm going to whack them in and see what happens. We've got quite a few of each, but some of these plants are pretty cool if you haven't seen them before. All right, let's cut to it. First things first, we've got these neglected sea beet puppies. There's 3 plants in there. These have been neglected for a little bit, but look, still green. Those leaves aren't limp. They've been sat there for about, I don't know, 3 weeks. It's been cold, frosty. They don't mind. They're hardy things, used to living by the coast. I'm going to place these. I'm going to look at where we're going to place each one, because I know these can get quite big. I'm going to place them around the outskirts, or I'm going to place them probably not where I'm going to walk through, because I know these can get quite big. These guys are unbelievable plants, to be honest. You basically can't kill them, and they produce these lovely, really easy and delicious leaves. They're so, I don't know, they're probably, I'd probably say, #1 plant in my opinion. If I were to have any of these plants, it'll be this. I've tried growing them in pots. You can do it, but they're a little bit less productive in there, in my opinion. But they manage to grow in pretty much anything though, and they basically need 0 care. I mean, like I said, these things have just been left neglected, but this is going to make a big comeback. You'll see it. This will be a big thing of green, and open like this. Now, Turkish Rocket. Like I said, I haven't actually grown this one before. I've stuck it in the ground and left it neglected. Now, in theory, you can harvest the leaves, but you harvest the flower shoots of it. So I don't know when it's supposed to flower. So let's pray for some lovely broccoli-like flower shoots off of these. You see those disgusting bitter leaves and those lovely long roots. So these next 2, still part of the Me Plant section, are the 2 sexy alliums that we're going to have going on in the food forest. This is the walking onion. But what it does is it's amazing. It sort of multiplies its bulbs at its base to grow multiple onions. You can chop them as spring onions. You could eat them as whole onions if you break them off from the main onion, mother onion collection. But also, it grows these long stalks that have these mini onions on the ends of them. That it then drops. It's sort of the stalks get too heavy and they clap, and they drop these little onionlets, these baby little onions, that then grow into the big mother onions again, and they carry on walking around your garden. Hence why they're called the walking onion. So the food forest is going to be full of these. Again, these are really hardy things. I haven't touched this bed in 2 years, and these are growing no problem. In fact, they're not just growing, they're multiplying, they're thriving. So in our food forest, we have plenty of onions growing. Another one of these super sexy alliums is these Perennial Leeks. There's lots of different types of Perennial Leeks. These ones are amazing. You can cut the top off and they often regrow, but also it creates these little bulbettes around the base of it. So you can pull the plant out and take off the little bulbs, eat the plant, and then the bulbettes you just leave in the ground or replant somewhere else, and you get plenty more leeks. this is the food forest as it's planted today. And it's looking a little bit tiny, a little bit underwhelming, but in my experience of planting these sorts of plants in this sort of way, give it 2 months, especially when the leaves are on the trees, it will really start coming to life. And perhaps more importantly, I can start eating it. I hope you enjoyed the video.